So this is a scary topic that we're going to be talking about today. It brings up the worst nightmares we have as parents. We're going to be talking about human trafficking. And today I want to welcome our guest because she is the executive director of the Idaho Anti-Trafficking Coalition. And I first knew Jennifer when she was working for the Parent Training and Information Center here in Idaho, which is IPUL, Idaho Parents Unlimited. And just kind of recently, Jennifer has switched jobs, and now she is, like I said, the executive director of Idaho's Anti-Trafficking Coalition. So I want to welcome Jennifer to our show. This is our first show where we actually have a side-by-side.
Yeah,
so that's kind of nice. We don't have to do it through the computer. But Jennifer, I thought first it might be helpful for people to know what drew you towards this new organization and kind of what the impetus was for you to switch and do this.
Well, I've always had a drive to work within systems that have to do with populations that are very underserved. So especially those who are maybe marginalized or unidentified, or where we don't have a system that's recognizing the need. And so within this topic, I've definitely had a personal experience raising our adopted daughter who has significant mental and behavioral health issues, but she's been a victim of a sex crime or sexual crimes. And through those processes, though she wasn't a victim of trafficking, where it led our family and where it's led her, we recognized quickly that the system itself isn't set up necessarily to support individuals like her. And so the opportunity presented itself about 9 months ago to really jump in and kind of launch this newer coalition. And by doing so, I recognized from my past experiences with IPUL that we needed to tie the systems together. And so identifying the need for true identification for victims of trafficking, even those who are at risk or suspected. And so that would be across the board, children and adults, men and female. And by streamlining these programs, if we can just focus on the identification process, then we can start tailoring some of those specific trauma-informed services, mental health services, and then tap into the organizations or the agencies who can contribute to providing those services. So by doing that, we've been able to really link some important local and state agencies, nonprofits, churches, individuals, and so on to come together and start truly serving this population. So that's been a 9-month process, but just really felt called to jump into a newer topic to Idaho and just really create visibility and then also encourage our communities to get involved.
Yes, and I was so happy when I saw that even in the title of your organization, it says coalition, because I thought that's what we need. Instead of all of us doing this separate work, if there's a way we can bring together those efforts. And I wanted to say hi to Terry. She's joining us from Colorado. And yes, she says, scary indeed. Marlo says, one of my fears for my daughter when I'm no longer here. Yes, exactly. And so as we go through today's live show, if you have questions or comments, feel free to type them in the comment box. If you watch the replay, you can still ask questions and we can come back and respond to those. So first, I thought it might be interesting for us to know exactly not only who are the people that do the trafficking, but also, who are some of the people that are most likely to be targeted to be trafficked?
Mm-hmm. So we recognize that there are some specific populations who may be at risk for something like trafficking. And though they're at risk for a variety of factors, trafficking happens to be one of them. And I think that it's difficult for people to wrap their heads around it. Difficult to think that it would actually happen to my child. And I think that's where one of the biggest barriers are, is that it is possible. We're not saying that every single child or youth or adult out there is, even though they're at risk, is going to end up to be a victim of trafficking. But what we're saying is that it is something to be very aware of, and the possibility is it's true. So as far as stereotyping or kind of giving an umbrella of those who may be targeted, we do have the risk populations. So we know that those who are homeless, those who come from maybe a family generation of some form of drug or alcohol addiction, where there may be domestic violence, abuse of some kind. So those revolving doors. Definitely foster care systems are, those who are vulnerable become prime targets for traffickers. And so through all of those individuals, even those aside, you can have a very solid foundation within a family structure, and that youth, or even as they're transitioning to adulthood, may still be a target. We know that people with disabilities are targeted because they're stereotyped. They're viewed as people who can't advocate for themselves. There may be that stigma still where they may not have the direct oversight, or maybe they don't have they're viewed as not having skills to identify when something may be wrong. And so they become targets. And online is going to be your primary location for predators. They will hang out anywhere our kids are hanging out. So if there's an app that's tailored to a game, our predators are going to hang out there. So I think we have this idea that the app or the online activity is somehow connected to that type of interaction, and it's not true. Predators and traffickers and pimps are going to, they're savvy enough to hang out in the places that our kids hang out.
So that brings me up. At the end of our show, I'll give you some links. And also, I wanted to let you know, if you want to get the show notes where we have some additional resources, just type SAFE in the comments, and you should get a reply from my bot, and you type SAFE again, and I'll send out those notes for you. But I was going to bring up their Facebook page here, because in their Facebook page, they have some posts that are really helpful as far as some different apps.
Mm-hmm. So what you'll find here is, this was our first app tip sheet that we created. And as you can see, it generated a lot of visibility. And I think the reason being is that most individuals, parents especially, just wouldn't realize, and myself included, have no idea that these apps, which were designed or are designed for something completely different, oftentimes picture sharing, a place to hang out, a place for kids or youth to talk. And so there you can see the definition of each app. And unfortunately, predators are hanging out within these apps. And so they are coercing individuals, especially those who are vulnerable, through a form of grooming. And by doing that, grooming would be an individual who has a false identity online and start interacting with our kids. So these apps are where you may find predators hanging out at. We do have a tip sheet number 2 that's also on our Facebook page. And I can provide that resource to Charmaine as well, and that can be sent out. But anyone who is interested in looking at those tip sheets, we have data points on our Facebook page. We also have resources for what types of programs you can access in order to monitor and limit certain online use. So even outside of just what these apps are, you'll be able to just scour through our page and see a variety of resources that can help parents or individuals. What are those devices and what are the names of those apps or additions to any of our social media that can assist in monitoring online use? So I think that there's just enough there that can at least get the ball rolling for monitoring.
Right. So, and that's the thing. There's just on the, Jennifer's Idaho website, there is so much information, plus their Facebook page. There's also a national hotline, and for some reason my item isn't coming up here, but I'll also post after the show the hotline. There's usually a hotline in each state. There's also a national hotline. So I know we have viewers from around the country, but please know that there are resources out there for you. And sometimes it's just a matter of being brave enough to speak up and start a conversation about this. I think so many of us as parents, it's like this is like too scary to even go there. But this is something that we need to be aware of. And, we look at self-advocacy skills when our kids go to IEP meetings. This is a different type of self-advocacy skill that they need to be confident in, as far as, this takes kind of like the stranger danger even one step further. So, and I know some parents with older, children that have their children receive SSI money. Sometimes they're vulnerable because people will want to take, befriend them and take that SSI money funds from them. So there's a variety of ways that your child can be targeted. And we just want to make sure that you are more aware of this and actually what kinds of things that you can do to take the steps. The other thing that I learned, Jennifer, was interesting was that there's a real similarity between domestic violence and that kind of sense of control and power over people with people that also traffic, so I don't know if you want to talk about that.
So Stockholm Syndrome, something similar to that. That's legit. It's a legitimate concern because oftentimes traffickers will gain a level of trust that mimics and turns into a false relationship. And so traffickers, like I said, are savvy enough to go through the process of manipulation. So it's through coercion. Oftentimes there's fraud. But there's force. And so there's a process to getting to that place where you end up controlling an individual. And that would be through, it would look similar to domestic violence. So most people think that, this is a kidnapping type of a situation where someone pulls over and kidnaps. And though that is a possibility and part of some of the data points, that's not generally the approach. The approach is to create and develop a relationship with anyone who responds. And so online, there's, like I said, you have the fake profile. So that fake profile may be an individual who looks like a peer. And then that person starts to get to know your likes, your dislikes, starts to create this fake relationship with you. So what happens oftentimes is then that victim starts to fall in love with this person. And now this person's considered my boyfriend, oftentimes it'll lead to that online relationship. Then what happens is that they'll most likely meet for coffee or at a restaurant, typically in a public setting. And again, still no red flags. So we still don't, now it still looks normal. You have a same aged peer, individual, this still looks normal. That individual will continue to work on that relationship. Now, once they pull you in, especially if you are within the at-risk population where you are homeless, there is the revolving foster care door, or maybe at home, there's that cycle of abuse. So this trafficker is going to hone in on that. Once they bring you into their life, they're now going to shower you with gifts. They're going to shower you maybe with a home, food, all of those necessities, the basic needs. And by doing that, you start to fall in love with them. Eventually, that individual is going to say, you need to earn your keep. You now need to pay this back. You can't live here for free. It'll start turning into an abusive situation, but you're still confused. You now have fallen in love with this individual. Your life may be better regardless. This is better than being on the streets. This is better than living at home. And it becomes a vicious cycle. So now you are forced to go and earn your keep. And that's typically going to be through sex trafficking. Oftentimes, sex trafficking and labor trafficking overlap. But anytime an individual is capitalizing off of your acts in exchange for money, then it's trafficking. It's considered trafficking. So that whole process will mimic domestic violence, where most people think, why don't you just get out? Why don't you just ask for help? There is a process of manipulation to its core, to where you become desensitized. Oftentimes you start to lose your identity. Traffickers, I would say almost 100% of the time, will get their victims addicted to some form of drug. And by that, they through the withdrawal process, they use that as a way to control you, to supply more drugs. Then you go out and earn your keep. So there's a vicious cycle. I would say our kids with disabilities are absolutely vulnerable for this. Being able to see any red flag through that process is difficult for anyone. And I would say for sure my daughter, who has significant mental health disorders, when she was a victim of sexual abuse, she wasn't able to advocate for herself. And to this day, she isn't able to identify with the fact that she was abused. Mm-hmm. And so not having the ability to advocate for herself despite education and trying to assist in those skills, she just simply doesn't have that in her. And so it is going to take an entire community, the visibility, being aware, what do those signs look for? The National Hotline is a really great resource. And I would say if anyone suspects anything, and we can go into red flags if you want to in a minute, and what to look for. But I would say I would encourage anyone who does contact the National Hotline to also contact your local law enforcement. Yeah. The National Hotline is a great resource for collecting data, especially for your state. And then they will immediately tap into those resources within your state and maybe surrounding, but it's possible that turnaround isn't fast enough. So if you're going to make the call, then I would suggest that you make the call to law enforcement first, and then contact the National Hotline, and then they can join forces.
Yeah, that's really good information, because that's the thing. It's like sometimes, it's just like, I have never experienced this. What do I do? It's like, and so I think it would be helpful if you want to talk about some of those red flags, mm-hmm. because then parents know, like, these are some of the things that I need to be aware of, and not just kind of push them aside, but mm-hmm. to really look at what the situation might be.
It's really easy for all of us to miss signs. I would say becoming very, very aware of what they are, and just keeping them at the forefront of our minds will keep us in tune. It's easy to miss any changes within our children, but any change, especially within their personality, is a red flag. And I'm not saying just for trafficking, but just in general. And so if we notice that our kids are becoming secretive, especially if they're hiding their devices, A lot of times our kids who are tech savvy will delete their apps and then reload them so that parents can't monitor them. We should always have access to our children's any of their devices. We should have access to all of their codes and be able to scour through. But if they become secretive and they start to become reserved, oftentimes they start to hide. They become very recluse. They start to, if they are very social individuals and have any group of friends, or even within their family structure, they start to back away from that and want to spend a lot of time online or by themselves. That's a red flag. When our kids are spending more and more time online, they oftentimes become somewhat addicted to it because they're creating this fake relationship. And so what happens in that during that time, if you were to monitor it, if you were to limit it, you're going to see behaviors as a result of that. So maybe someone who is now wanting to focus on this fake relationship, they're going to fight back if you're monitoring or limiting that use. So that's a red flag. Beyond that, so beyond our household, even with kids in our schools, in our communities, especially in our after school programs, those that we would come in contact with, even at our churches, anywhere in the community, if you see bruising, of course, oftentimes if they're exhausted, that's because they're working nights. They're usually up all night, and they may start to exhibit those signs of some substance abuse. Or you may notice that all of a sudden they have a lot of brand new items on them. So jewelry, maybe an individual who doesn't typically dress this way is dressing differently. You'll see a shift. Oftentimes, if someone starts to become addicted to this online activity, especially part of the grooming process with a trafficker, they're going to want to spend all of their time doing that. That is going to become an addiction. That's your first red flag. And then beyond that, who are they hanging out with? If there's a whole brand new group of friends and they've completely gotten rid of their usual group of friends, then that's a red flag as well. And that's a red flag for anything. But these are possibilities leading to risky interactions. And so there's a whole slew of red flags that even go beyond that. If you have an individual who is attached to somebody and that other person is the one who makes the decisions, speaks for them, if the victim doesn't have access to their own identification, if they're not the one speaking for themselves, oftentimes these transactions are happening at our hotels, any of our hotels throughout the state in Idaho. You'll see that victim most likely doesn't have any luggage with them. They just have the items that they have on them. They're the ones that they're forced to monitor the calendar of those transactions within their own phone. So it might give off the illusion that they're the ones in charge, that they're the ones running it. It's simply not true. They're forced and their life is on the line. Their life is in danger if they don't do it, if they don't bring home the money from these transactions. So I would say to pay close attention to those things. If you're in a hotel, pay attention to multiple men going up to the rooms, especially if there's just cash transactions. And if there's a lot of cameras and videotaping, if there's that kind of those types of devices on individuals, then you'll notice there's going to be some type of picture taking. Something's going to happen. A lot of traction. So paying attention to if that girl or boy, we have a huge amount of boys, by the way, that are victims of trafficking, but the victim themselves are not in charge of themselves. They're not the ones that are going to, unless of course they are the ones that are having to go from hotel to hotel to hotel. But just look at them visibly. Do they have luggage? Do they have a bag on them? Do they have access to their own identification? Oftentimes the trafficker will set up the room. They already paid the cash. There's no paper trail. And then oftentimes that victim is not going to make eye contact, and they're not going to offer any additional information.
So yeah, it's just pretty incredible. And I don't know, it's, I know in the news a while ago, there was a story, and I think it was in Ohio, where there were several people with disabilities that were forced for labor, so I think besides the sex trafficking in that a lot of individuals, like you said, can be forced to, now you have to pay your way, or you have to pay back for all these things. And so sometimes in agriculture work, the laborers there, they might have been, trafficked, and now they're in a position where they have no way of getting out. So I think too, as parents, to look at, like you said, one of the signs can be if our kids are really tired, if they're, out working, and but yeah, so there's like so many things, and when you put them together, that's when you can sometimes solve that puzzle about what is actually happening.
And reach out. We have so many people that reach out just with simple questions. They may think it's a simple question, but it may be leading. And any shift, any change that we see, when we're in the community, it's just important that we pay close attention to something that may not seem right. Because it could be something. It doesn't necessarily, again, mean trafficking, but it could be something. And so paying close attention to just what's happening around us. In Idaho, we often have this philosophy that we just live and let live, and we don't get involved. And in this generation, in this time, we have to go back to this place where we everyone is going to jump in to protect everyone. And trafficking is happening throughout this entire state. It's happening in our schools. It's in your backyard. It might be within a very well-known family, might be within a family where the parent is a leader in their community. It might be someone who's very, very well respected, and this may be part of their culture. There is a large number of families in Idaho where it's called familial trafficking, where they are selling their children. It may be because of extreme poverty to support a drug habit, or poverty mean just to pay a bill. It may be cyclical, where it's just been a generational issue. This is the culture of the family, and each child is really designated and raised up to be sold in order to make a profit. And so that's a really difficult thing to identify when those children are raised to live double lives. And so you might not see that. You might not see it. So it can happen in any family structure. It doesn't matter what economic background. It doesn't matter what race or ethnicity. There is not a stereotype of a victim who, where I think in the past we think of movies like with Julia Roberts,
Right.
you try to relate it to something. And even the movie Taken, it does happen that these victims oftentimes are taken internationally, and almost impossible to get them back. But we have this idea that there's this stereotype, and there isn't. It's anyone who actually falls into this process of manipulation. And so it's just really important that if you are seeing any red flags, or if you have questions, or if you want to tap into resources, I would encourage anyone just to study, research, become an expert. Make this a topic that you believe should be within our homes, within our churches and our communities. And I would also encourage people to invest in programs that are designed to support those who are at risk. support our homeless shelters, support after school programs, create youth programs, create all of our churches have an opportunity to open their doors and bring in a community of kids who don't have anywhere to go, just to play games, have a snack, maybe some adult interaction. It doesn't always mean that the parents. I am a huge advocate against parent bashing, and I truly believe that in a lot of cases, at no fault of the parent, that you may have a split household, or you may have both parents working full time, maybe 2 jobs, 3 jobs. Just that in itself, trying to support their family, may be the result of that lack of oversight. And so, if our kids have an opportunity to have places to go, just to interact and in a safe environment that really encourages healthy interactions, a safe place, again, that adult supervision, then we're going to reduce those opportunities for them to fall prey to this.
Yeah. So I think about, the funding for like after school programs or things like that. And sometimes, we don't see that as a much of a priority when, we're looking at where we're going to spend school funds or something. But that would be something that parents could really encourage their school district to do if they don't have after school programs. And I think it's really helpful if you can have it in each building so kids don't have to be transported. But look at your school district and see, are there intramural sports that kids can participate? Is there like a boys or a girls club in your community? Look for opportunities where you can help and volunteer or do some fundraising to make sure that our kids have safe places that they can go and adults that they can trust.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's really for our coalition, going back to your comment about being a coalition, that's our model. Our model is to bring in communities, ultimately to create the awareness and the visibility, but to challenge our communities to really identify what resources are necessary in order to address a population of kids who just need that support. And so we love brainstorming, we love providing resources, but we love working alongside other programs, even within the YMCA or Boys and Girls Club, like you're saying, or things that are already in existence. We would also challenge that maybe a coalition or an advisory committee or a group come together and start promoting new programs within those existing programs. So something new, something different, or adding to it. Our shelters, they're always in need of support, but we have to rely on them. So we know that right now around 4,000 of our students statewide are homeless, and so that in itself is it's a critical data point for our organization, because we know that so many of those kids are at risk and they're the ones that need that support. And so by coming together as communities to start providing whatever, meeting their basic needs, is hopefully going to prevent them from resorting or even falling prey to something like trafficking. It's just an important topic. I would say, going back to the labor trafficking issue, during the summer is a prime time for traffickers to hang out at our malls, anywhere, our parks. So they're going to hang out, and they're going to pay close attention. They're going to monitor and watch those who they think they can target. Oftentimes that they'll approach even kids with parents and discuss these job opportunities, modeling. If they find out that these kids may be into music, there's these music or band opportunities. There's going to be opportunities for any type of artistry, and so they'll target. So they'll monitor. They can spend a whole day monitoring our kids, but they'll approach them with these false jobs, and those jobs are also online. You wouldn't think, but a lot of times, nationally and internationally, Some of our labor traffickers fall prey to just even holding those signs on the corners. We don't realize it, but and they're going to look just like our kids. Unfortunately, they may be forced, they may be coerced, they may be in a position to where there's bribery. Oftentimes, if a trafficker can get the victim to send an inappropriate picture through online, they now have that as a form of bribery, and then they can get you to do anything they want to, because they'll spend that time through force, claiming that they're going to show it to your family, everyone at school, they're going to show it to your community, they're going to, they're now going to use that form of exploitation as a way to control you. That's where our kids with disabilities fall prey. Those are the ones who really can't see those, the need for those boundaries within communication and interaction. And so where they may, so many of our kids fall prey to sending inappropriate pictures through online use. But our kids with disabilities, they're the easiest target to get to send a nude photo to somebody. And so I would absolutely say that, especially during after school and summertime, traffickers are they're hanging out. They're there. So we need programs that are going to be able to support kids.
Yeah, I don't know. I know in Idaho, one of the big projects that you've worked on is establishing our first safe house here. So if you want to talk a little bit about that, I think.
Yeah, so a couple of things that we're doing is I came into this position honoring the ultimate goal. This was due to feedback from all of our programs and state agencies. It's difficult for them to agree to a formal identification and assessment process if they don't have anything or any resource beyond that. So we've now identified that this may be an individual at risk, suspected, or identified as a victim of trafficking, but then we don't have any resources. So there's a sense of reluctancy there. So in order to honor the need to do that, we decided, then we'll pursue the safe house. And so Solace House is a safe house designed for minor female victims, so young girls and youth, ages 11 until they age out at 18, who would be either at risk or identified and need this level of care. So we'll be able to bring in up to 10 girls, and it's up to a 2-year program. And through that process, we will have a team of professionals who will provide trauma-informed care, counseling, potentially medication management, all of those different things, but access to substance abuse treatment, access to authentic and kind of outside of the box therapies, something like equine therapy or art therapy, just a whole array of opportunities to restore, go through that recovery process, and then ultimately independent and just really nurturing that healing process. And we know that it isn't something that can happen overnight. In addition to that, we decided we will be opening up Solace House outpatient services, which will be an office in the community, and that'll be tailored to anyone. So the Solace House has a specific age and gender, and that's due to policies and that's due to requirements. But the outpatient services will be able to serve anyone at risk or suspected, anyone who may be identified a victim, but any age and any gender. And that'll be an opportunity to be a direct resource from any program, any clinic, any hospital, mental health agency, any school, parents, really anyone. And through that process, we'll ensure that they're accessing appropriate services tailored to trafficking. And so we recognize that that level of trauma is as deep as it can go. And so we'll provide those services as well. We'll continue to function as a nonprofit and provide statewide. Our goal is to really expand statewide, though we're pretty much in the Treasure Valley right now. But training and education and awareness, opportunities for people to get involved. We're creating a structured volunteer program, and then currently doing some fun fundraising events, and then just allowing people to contribute however they can.
Yeah, and I guess one of the things that I think about too when we talk about volunteers and having trusting adults that, you know, kids can go to is like, how do we know who is the trusted adult? So with your volunteer program, will you be doing background checks? I mean, how do organizations, you know, feel confident that their volunteers are really going to be safe people?
It's a really good question. One of the things we did do is we created this question and answer kind of fact sheet, and these are great questions, and we identified that through just ongoing Q&A kind of question and answers on our Facebook page, so that everyone can kind of see what the structure looks like. That being one of the number one questions. And then I can actually go through a couple of the other ones because they're relevant. Our current structure for volunteerism is just anyone and everyone. That's an opportunity to help us create visibility. I also believe in nurturing whatever your skills are. How do you want to volunteer? How do you want to get involved? We nurture that right now. As that's growing, once we really do have a solid volunteer structured program, we'll actually be bringing in a volunteer coordinator, and that individual will manage volunteers coming in, and it will be through an application process. We have that application now. It's live on our website, so that we'll be able to tell you what is available right now for the Solace House. Anyone who comes into volunteer for Solace House will be background checked, fingerprinted, the entire process. So that would ensure safety. This house is a non-disclosed house, so you'll have to sign a non-disclosure clause. I mean, there will be a formal process for that. Right now, volunteers are there isn't a volunteer right now who would really come in contact with any of those victims, and so anyone who's volunteering, one of the benefits to volunteering right now is that you're assisting in the launch of the first safe house in Idaho, and it's monumental. This is a historical opportunity to say, I did that, you know, I participated in that, and see it grow, because everyone's able to contribute. And we've just seen some just beautiful and amazing things come out of all of the individuals who've come forward. Some of the other questions we get oftentimes, you know, why aren't you supporting adults, or what are you doing about labor trafficking, or why haven't you addressed boys? And those are all things that we are addressing. So currently, every bit of what we're doing is through outreach. So that is the number one priority. The visibility piece is critical, but buy-in is still an issue in Idaho. And so just getting people to recognize or even agree or acknowledge that this is an issue is part of our effort. So really expanding on that. We have included boys in our research, in our resources, and moving forward with a goal really, really specific to boys. And so that's a future goal of ours. So Solace House Outpatient Services was designed recently to meet those needs. And so we listened to those questions. And as far as taking in that feedback and recognizing, you know, we really need to tailor some of our services to a wider audience, so a larger potential audience. And then other questions in the Q&A are, how can people get involved? And then we let you know. And so so there's quite a few questions that seem to be kind of a typical thing. So you'll find those answers on our Facebook page, and that way you'll know exactly what are we doing, what are we focusing on. It's a step-by-step process. Solace House is we're projecting that it'll actually open its doors sometime in March. And so from here till March, we really do need people just jumping in, getting involved however they can, especially when it comes to that visibility piece. So.
Yeah, and I want to, let's take a look and go back here to your Facebook page, because there are so many resources on here. And so it's the easiest way for them.
Just go to the, see more. And then if you go to, you can go to our posts if you want to. And so Dollar Day is actually going to be on Black Friday. And we're calling on everyone and anyone to donate $1. And so that will go directly to our efforts to support individuals through Solace House. And so that will be launching that first safe house. So Dollar Day is our big push for that. If you were to go to so if you scroll down, you're going to see updated information that's either nationally recognized, local. So these are local. We do these things on our own. We go in and we find how are things happening in Idaho as far as the level of sex exploitation or lewd conduct. What does it look like on the internet? We know that Craigslist and other networking groups online are still selling individuals, and they may make it look like that person themselves is in charge and selling themselves. They always claim that this is an adult, and oftentimes they are minors. And so through that process, we just go in and we target this population of pimps and traffickers. And I think it's there's a variety of safe houses throughout the country, which we pay close attention to. We love supporting them. Again, Dollar Day, well, it'll be in 2 locations. It'll be at the Mountain West Bank on Caldwell Boulevard in Nampa. And then it'll also we'll have a table at the Mountain West Bank at the Village. And anyone can pop in and just donate their $1. If you can't make it in person while you're out and about shopping on Black Friday, we have an online option on our website as well.
So yes, I would encourage folks that live in Idaho to definitely support the Idaho Anti-Trafficking Coalition. And you can do that in a number of ways that we've talked about today. I also want to remind you that if you want to get additional resources, just type the word SAFE in the comments, and I will write some show notes with the kind of the top tips of our show today, plus also give you additional resources both nationally and locally here in Idaho. But I want to thank our viewers. If you are watching the replay, please remember that you can still type in comments or questions, and we can circle back and answer those. I'm hoping that this today just brought a little bit awareness for all of us about the important problem that exists in our communities. And it's not something that we can ignore. It's something that we need to be aware of, but then also that we need to act. So, if there is time in your day that you can spend time doing some volunteer work, helping post issues on Facebook, sharing this video with others, there's little things that each of us can do that will blossom and create that coalition where we are keeping our children safe. And so I so appreciate you being here today, Jennifer. This was great. And I'm glad that that you are working in this arena now, and that you're just kind of combining all your skills that you've worked with, when you worked at IPOL, and this is another way that you can continue to help our community. So
thank you. Thanks for having me on your show. This is great. Thank
yeah,
you so much.
it was. I was going to say it's fun. It's not really fun.
It's not, no. I mean, it's fun to get together,
yes.
but definitely not a fun topic. But I would say it's so critical. We've got to get past this uncomfortable feeling. We oftentimes we try to protect ourselves because we are afraid, and through that process of fear, then we miss those incredible opportunities. We miss the critical points. We miss the possibilities as well. And so we've just got to stay alert. It doesn't mean every single person, is a potential risk, but it's just important to stay informed, stay involved. And by combating this, I would just say one last note. By combating this, I think we really need to address the issue, and that's buyers. We oftentimes put the focus on victims, and then we obviously put the focus on people who are selling, people, the traffickers themselves. But we forget that right now there's a demand, and that demand is significant. And if we have a multi-billion-dollar a year industry, that's how much money people are making off of selling individuals for sex. Then we have to address the fact that there's people, that demand is driving it. It's driving the need for these products, which are individuals, and the demand itself are buyers. Those are people who are soliciting. Those are people who are seeking through an enormous amount of data. Unfortunately, we know that pornography can lead to violence and destructive behaviors. It becomes a form of addiction, potentially. It does change your brain chemistry. It can mimic and look just like a drug addiction. And so because of that, it leads to a very, very significant risk, which is purchasing an individual, typically minors. And so though the buyer themselves may claim that they didn't know this individual was underage, the proof shows that they're seeking that. So I would say if we can really address the need to combat the pornography issue, the online access is an issue. So for buyers to be able just to purchase people online is unfathomable. So that being a big issue, we need to write our legislators. We need to talk to our policymakers. We need to truly diminish the demand issue, and that would be through rehabilitation. It would be through stricter laws, which we don't have in Idaho currently, and supporting any action that's going to diminish individuals from being able to purchase someone, especially online.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible when you think of all the avenues that are available for buyers, for traffickers, for the victims. And so there are, like every big issue we have in our culture, there are so many, underlying issues that are creating the problems that we're seeing with the human trafficking. And I encourage you, like I said, to become more aware, to think of what you can do in your local community to increase the awareness. Speak up at school board meetings about it. As Jennifer mentioned, go to your churches and synagogues and have this as a part of the discussion of what, positive things can be done for our community. So, thank you once again, Jennifer.
Thank you so much.
I'm so glad you were here. I know I'm trying to learn more about it, so this has been really helpful for me also. If you are new to our show, I'm Charmaine Tanner. I am here every Thursday at noon. We do a variety of topics, a lot of times more specific to special education. And today's topic is something that we have not ever talked about in our 102 shows that we've done. And I really felt the need for this to be a topic of discussion. So I hope throughout Facebook we can keep the conversation going. And if you know of other resources that have been helpful in your community, please post them either on this Facebook page or on the Idaho Anti-Trafficking Coalition Facebook page. And so I thank you for watching and for being here, and we shall see you again next Thursday. Take care. It's like ending.
Very